Friends That Break Your Heart by James Blake. It is 12 songs, 43 minutes long. James Blake, we reviewed his album that came out in 2019, I believe, Assume Form, which you really, really liked that album. I'm still like, if like half and half on it. I thought it was decent, but there is some stuff I thought was okay.
I mean, a lot of folks still love his self-titled from 2011 and Overgrown, the really popular cover of him just like standing in the
Yeah, the
POV in the center.
Overgrown. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I know that album.
I thought a sim form was really wonderful because of for those listening in the podcast, all this stuff makes a lot more clerical sense. But because the podcast gets clipped up into things, I have to make this clarification
Yeah.
or like statement. We've previously talked about Don Tolliver this week in his album Life of a Don, which featured a couple songs produced by Metro Boomin. And there are a couple songs produced by Metro Boomin, I believe, in this new album as well,
Yes.
James Blake, Friends That Break Your Heart, which is a very interesting album that I'll get to in a moment. But while we're talking about James Blake's history, Assume Form came out at a time in 2019 where Metro Boomin was starting to branch out of trap music and test his production in different places and different forms. And James Blake was one of the first places that came to him in that with songs like Mile High, for example, and Tell Them with Travis Scott and Moses Sumney, respectively. And, you know, with differing levels of success and quality, but you're able to see Metro Boomin really kind of start out there and branch himself out to see, okay, how can I bring this sound to alternative, to trap, to indie? And we've seen that ever since. Notably, there's a Gorilla song that has I think helped Damon get better with trap music because Dead Butterflies was a good start, and then Damon has produced other things with the Gorillaz project that have been better. So artists going on to make other artists sound better, that's awesome. We get to Friends That Break Your Heart with James Blake. A few songs are here they're produced by Travis Scott, but it's I mean sorry, not by Travis Scott, LOL, by Metro Boomin. But this is largely a James Blake concept record with a few features here or there, but a lot of
Hmm.
James Blake's really intimate lyricism on friendship and how sometimes it goes a little bit sour.
Yeah, I think the substance of the like the lyricism of the album is fantastic. I don't like the way it plays out as well. I think it is way too slow of an album, just like what we reviewed earlier. But it was conceptually, I like it a little bit more. Like I understand the way like he tried to frame it. Obviously, you know me, I like my concept records, so I'll always be partial to them. I do like the way it flows a bit. Like the features, they're a bit sparse, but they're still good. Like coming back with SZA, I think was a pretty decent track. You have Show Me later on the record with Monica Martin, which I also thought was pretty good. But a lot of it I thought was just moved a little bit too slow for me for a James Blake record. But I like it. It's a little bit different than stuff that I've heard with than him before. I think it's pretty approachable compared to some of his earlier works and stuff. Because some of his stuff can be quite experimental and different. And this is like his, I would like to say maybe his safest record that I've heard him make, which has its pros and its cons. But this is one of those. I might grow on me after time, after a couple of listens. But the first listen through, I wasn't thoroughly impressed, like I was thinking I was going to be. Other than the lyrics, I thought the lyrics were very, very well done. With each song, you could really grasp of again like friendships, relationships, all this other stuff, which you know you get ad nauseum here. But the way he takes a spin on it, I think, is quite good in that way. I just don't like the way it was produced from it. Like example, Famous Last Words, the first track. It's a track that's 4 minutes 16 seconds long, and you know normally tracks get you like really sucked into the record, but the song is feels like a really slow Sam Smith song without the Sam Smith vocals, where it's really muted undertones. It kind of takes a little while to get to the point of it, and even like towards the end, it just kind of leaves you wanting more than it really gives you. And then that's like throughout the whole album. You're left wanting more, wanting like some type of crescendo, some type of thing to really get you, oh wow. It's always just right on the tip of that crossover point.
Yeah, I'll say you kind of get this in Coming Back with SZA, which gets it to like the more upbeat nature that you can possibly get it. But the sound, like as a concept album, it ticks a good box in that it brings you down to this level where things are kind of a little bit quieter, a little bit muffled. Where some James Blake songs could be like, kind of like softer dance floor bangers, not necessarily like really fast, get you moving, but like deep electronic
Yeah,
songs that like had a little bit of a groove to them, albeit a little bit slower. This is definitely meant to be kind of like a sort of sitting in your room or sort of like lying down, like introspection sort of music.
yeah,
And then it's a different thing for James Blake, and I think it's a lot to get used to. But I think there's as opposed to the Don Toliver album, where there's a lot of production experimentation. I don't think that lands here. I think there's a lot of production experimentation. More of it lands than not. Will say, as a full project, I'm not used to, and maybe through a couple more listens, I will feel a little bit better about the pace of it. I wish it had like one or two more faster moments, but it does, in a concept album kind of way, at least stick to this muffled down, deeper, still within the realm of James Blake's sound, but something that feels like, okay, you have to stay within this concept. I am particularly making a box that I am not going to leave, that is going to allow the subject matter to resonate that much more.
yeah. I can get on board with that. Um, like the track with Sis, I thought was probably my favorite on the album, just because I like how it kind of transcends towards like the later half of the track. But towards the middle of it, it just for me it just gets stuck at one level. Even the Metro Boomin track, which I believe is Foot Forward, I thought was okay. It just did the snap thingy, which I hate the snap thingy, which is so this might be one of my few Metro tracks that I don't really like because I just think it's really corny when you do the snap thing along with the keyboard and whatnot. It just feels like something somebody would make in 2011. But overall, I think like there is some good parts of this. I like that he made it a concept record, like that he pushed his boundaries a little bit and tried something different within like his own discography because there's a lots of different sounds that he's had. I mean, he's been making music for a long time, and he's had a lot of good records. I mean, he did a lot of stuff on the Black Panther soundtrack and stuff, and some of those were fantastic. But yeah, this is one of those where I'm not gonna rip it to shreds because I think it's gonna take me a while to really appreciate it.
Yeah,
But
I
I have my
think one of the high points to me is Frozen with Jid and Sueve, because I always call him Jid, but JID, however we go with this. You read things on the internet, you never know. Um I He does like a thing with his voice and his rap that's a little bit of like an edited effect to it. It sounds a lot more like gravelly, intense as you're playing through the mix, and
mm,
it makes that part of the song resonate a little bit more because it matches with a production change as well. And that I felt, again, contrasting to the Don Toliver album we reviewed earlier this week. And again, if it doesn't make sense to you, just watch the other video on YouTube. Then it has a little bit more of a cohesion in its experimentation. That's why I say, where it's like more often than not, this record feels like it knows what it's doing a little bit more when it experiments, because it lands on its feet a little bit more. Not always still, because I think after Frozen, you get into an aspect of the record where, and even before Frozen, you have like Funeral, where it talks about this idea of being able to be alive for your own funeral and like know what your friends would really say about you and think about you, like not just like in the performance of sadness, but also like deep down, like actual things they like didn't say to you, whatever that could have been about like anger,
right,
frustration, right?
right,
All that lyricism sticks out through there, but I think the concept, like the production doesn't help carry it enough to help the idea like really sing through. Like a concept album, you're really just lining up everything to make it like a really stellar record. And so when one thing majorly falls short in that, unfortunately has to be called out. And this, I think, yeah, like I agree with Sean, the production could do a little bit more work there. I think it's a little bit too understated, even if it's for a point, it still could use a little bit more flair.
yeah. I think that's a fair criticism as well. My arbitrary scale this week is Pitchfork rescored reviews because the ultimate arbitrary scale is an arbitrary scale because we're doing inception of the mind because that's what we do here on Audioface because shit doesn't matter. This is Interpol. Turn on the bright lights. They somehow downgraded it from a 9.5 to a 7.0. One of the most important alternative rock albums ever made. They downgrade it. Because why not? Because fucking Pitchfork.
Yeah. I'm gonna give this the uh big boy Sir Lucius Left Foot, the son of Chico Dusty, because yeah, definitely this album did not need to get a 9.2 as it came out, and I'm glad this is Pitchfork going, whoa, maybe we take a little bit too much of the hype bar every once in a while. We should work on that. That being said, like, it 7.7 also seems a little bit rough. Like, again, now you're forcing me onto your like turf of arguing the legitimacy of these scales, which I inherently don't agree with, because this is a really major big boy album,
Mm-hmm.
and I think set a lot of sound and like let a lot of motivation for a lot of rappers to come up after it, not necessarily following that voice and tone continually, but helping them get up out of their mixtape era a little bit. So I'm not sure if it's 7.7 is even fair either, but it gives you a lot to talk about, which is maybe what the bastards want.
Ah, Jesus.